Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
Now it's going.
All right, so now we're on.
We are on. So
Yeah.
tonight, episode 204. Welcome to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. Tonight, author Giese joins us to talk about her new book about recovering, breaking her Achilles tendon and recovering from it. It is her book is called "You'll Never Walk Alone: A Hiker's Memoir of Adventure, Tragedy, and Defying the Odds."
You know who broke their Achilles or ruptured their Achilles tendon?
Not me.
Aaron Rodgers.
He's a cool. I love his memes. Those memes are the best.
Man, that really changes my opinion of you. and Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest, top five.
Yeah, he came back and was again a force in basketball. So
yeah.
So now we'll see tonight. We'll see if a hiker can rupture their Achilles and make a comeback. That's what tonight's episode is about.
Definitely. And I want to, Tad, I'm going to crack open this right away because I think I need to get it. So hold on. Once again, this is not easy. So here we go. All right, I'm cracking mine open. Do you have one or no?
Yeah, I have one. I'm just looking. Where's the setting for this tonight? Can't seem to find it.
Audio microphone modes, and it's low. All right, I'm going. I can't wait to try this. It is a new one. There it is. I can hear your background noise. So, this smells so good.
All right. So I got a new Zoom app running. So I don't know if this is going to come across. We'll have to see. Ready?
Ready?
3, 2.
Ooh, nice.
Good. All right. So now you have to guess what I have here.
I love New York. Hudson North. Hey, same here. Big Peach. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, I have a vanilla chai, new one. So.
Oh, do you? So you got some of those?
Yeah. So awesome.
And
now change it back to your normal settings, buddy.
Was it worth the wait?
It was. I found it in my Hannaford. I looked behind all the other caramel apples and I saw a bright purple one. So I was just like, ooh, yeah, it's good. What do you think? Peachy, high alcohol content. That's the way it should be.
Damn. I'll never be able to eat a peach again.
That's the way it is. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, how is it you can have one of these during the show and not be slurring your words?
I do sometimes. I
feel it coming on. I feel like I'm just going to be mispronouncing and slurring everything.
Guilty.
I'm already feeling bushwhacked by the hard cider.
Hey. Awesome. Awesome. We'll talk about that later. So big shout out to Betsy Anderson. She finished her Catskill Mountain Club 4 Seasons Challenge. Betsy has been a guest on the show. She's been a supporter of the show almost ever since the beginning. Plus, she's participated in several events. So big shout out to Betsy. I really appreciate you supporting the show and stuff. And congratulations on your 4 Seasons Challenge.
Yeah.
She's killing it.
Yeah, big kudos to her. I've bumped into her and others with her on the trail a couple times. And glad to see she finished the 4 seasons. And when somebody finishes the 4 season, you know what's next.
Grids?
You either do the grid, all trails, or some people think I'm going to do the 100 highest. And
that's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the 100 highest, but I would say after the 4 seasons, going on to the all trails makes a lot of sense. So we'll see what Betsy is up to in the future. So long as it involves hiking, we support it.
Yeah, definitely. So congratulations, Betsy. Also, I mean, we're this breaks in. I had once again. I love Facebook. I have Facebook, and it brings me back to memories. It has a little thing called Memories on Facebook, which is great. And this 5 years ago has been since the closure of Graham and Double Top. Since the Gould
So-
shut us down from us.
Yeah.
Boom, shut us down.
Yeah. And so do you know what this means, Stosh?
What's that?
We need a moment of silence in honor of Graham and Double Top. Just sit and reflect.
I mean, it was supposed to be silence, so now you're bringing it in. Come on. All right. Screw
all
that. So
right.
the Graham
Fuck
and
the
Double Top.
silence. This summer we're doing Occupy Double Top. We're going to make our approach to Double Top via Graham, past the radio tower building, through the call. We're going to ascend Double Top, and we're going to camp out there until we're removed.
Yeah. I mean, I did a post on Instagram about this because, it's been 5 years, and I think it's total BS. The conservation, they bring it, this conservation effort and stuff like that. I find that, climbing Double Top several times, climbing Graham several times, I didn't find any. I found a little bit after the COVID boom to be a little bit of trash here and there, wipes. But other than that, it seemed like a normal Catskill hike to me. And even going off trail, it felt like complete, utter wilderness. Conservation, my ass, when they built frickin' radio towers on the goddamn top of those. It stirs my, I'm sorry, it gets me going a little bit. Sorry.
Yeah. So there's a fair amount of hypocrisy in their position. And I'll say that I was a frequent hiker of Graham and Double Top before they were shut down. And before they shut down Double Top and Graham, I had approached both of them by many different directions. And most people that hiked Graham came up the Jeep Trail to the radio tower and returned. Probably 1 in 1,000 or fewer actually ventured much past that radio tower and got into one of the more unique areas of the Catskills, which was the pygmy forest that was on the summit of Graham that Mike Kudish writes about in his book.
Love that spot.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the most coolest areas, I thought, in the Catskills, somewhat like what you see on Bear Pen, but better.
But better, yeah. I mean, and Alex Maris explained that, why that was created somewhat because of the crazy weather that Graham gotten up on top of there. Plus, they destroyed the forest when they cut down all the balsams and stuff like that. But that forest can't survive up there with the crazy winds, the crazy cold and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, there's not much that would block the flow of the wind towards Graham. And then just touching on Double Top, I will say that I saw over the course of the 4 years or so that I was hiking in the Catskills before they shut down Double Top, that, there was some of that trail braiding that was occurring, trampling. People weren't following what was the unmarked social path or herd path going up it. Maybe they should have marked it. They certainly, remember how they marked the point of departure onto that path from the trail? Remember that? They had like
Like
police,
you mean down there in the Sager?
Yeah, police, scene tape or caution tape around there and signs. Yeah, kind of ridiculous. So South Double Top is still one of my favorite hikes. I've hit it from all sorts of different directions. It would be great if those areas were reopened to the general public, but we should put up a GoFundMe page to buy supplies and provisions, maybe rent a helicopter for a couple days to do a few airdrops, and everybody take some time off July and August, occupy Double Top.
I mean, the funny thing is I'm trying to, with the conservation aspect, I wonder how many times any of the Gould family members have been to the top of Double Top or Graham via hiking and via being as like a person who enjoys nature. I mean, I would say it's 0%. as aspect of hiking, or like maybe they've been taken up there. I would even say you could maybe get up to Graham by a four-wheeler. Not even. I would say towards the top, it's a little bit tight.
Well, depending on how built your four-wheeler is, you'll get to the top of Graham. And that road was they got the cinder blocks up there because they put a road in to get up there. And that road splits off of the road, the Jeep road that goes up to Balsam Lake Fire Tower. So getting to the top of Graham wasn't that difficult. I mean, there was a road there. And then if you remember, off of that road was another road that went down into Tucker Hollow.
Power lines?
No, the power lines are different yet. The power lines, you would kind of make a beeline right off of the summit proper to go down to Sager. But if you took the Jeep trail off of Sager towards Balsam Lake, before you started climbing back up towards the main road that goes to Balsam Lake, you would bang a right into the Tucker Hollow Road, which was substantially washed out when I hiked it. I will say it was a very scenic area down in there on the one hand. On the other hand, they had nettles in there that rivaled what you come across on Hawkett.
Yep. So like I remember bushwhacking up maybe that was Tucker Hollow, going up Double Top between Double Top and Big Indian. I remember bushwhacking up there, and I could say that the nettles up there were atrocious. Was just because it was just an overflow of water. It's all full of rocks and stuff. And I remember pictures of just me and my friend Travis standing there and just being like, fuck, we got to keep dealing with this, and whacking them away. And I kind of went from there straight up to I call it the PC. We won't say what it is. And that was a great hike in any other conditions. And then in the spring, summer, it sucked. I would summer, fall, it sucked really bad. So
yeah, well, that's Catskill hiking in full vegetation season.
I mean, that's surprises you get when you hike the Catskills, right? We'll be talking about that sometime soon.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So also
moving along.
Yeah, moving along. So in Elka Park on January 1st, 2:20 p.m. Raybook Dispatch called Forest Ranger Peterson about an injured dog hiker on the Pecoy Notch Trail in Twin Mountain. Ranger Peterson hiked in from the Roaring Kill trailhead and reached the hiker and a 40-pound dog. Ranger Peterson provided foot warmers to the hiker, who was wearing spring-summer hiking boots, and the dog also had cold front paws but otherwise was in good health. Ranger Fox arrived and kept the dog excited, happy with treats, and on the hike out, Rangers educated the 31-year-old from Pauling about proper winter clothing and footwear, and maybe not taking your dogs that are not equipped for winter hiking out on a winter hike, as we learned with Diana on a previous episode.
Yeah, Diana brings home your responsibility as a dog owner to be prepared to take your dog out for winter hiking. It entails a whole different element of risk for your dog. And it seems that this fellow on January 1st, not only for himself, but for his 40-pound dog, didn't take that into account. So I feel for both the dog and the Rangers, and to some extent, the 31-year-old hiker.
I just find it weird that, once again, people like Diana explains once again when to you can sense when to turn around, to be like, this is not, the dog is not feeling it. If your dog doesn't keep looking back and wanting to go further up the mountain, then you could kind of sense like, man, this is not a good time. I've always sensed that with humans. Like, if they're not enjoying and looking and talking to you, you're kind of like, this person's not enjoying the hike. Maybe we should turn around, ask them, give them some food or something like that. But I do. Dogs, what sucks with dogs, they can't tell you their feelings and stuff like that. But you can also...
I think if you know your dog, you have a sense for that.
And Diana talked about that. She 100%. And, it just, We luckily haven't run into this a lot in the Catskills, so that's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
So hopefully people are getting in more on that kind of aspect that, dogs in the winter are tough, depending on breed, are a tough thing to do. You gotta know your dog's breed. You gotta know their limitations and stuff. So we see that.
Start out at the town park with your dog, and move up in increments, and don't go off and start hiking in mountainous, somewhat alpine territory with your dog until you guys are dialed in with respect to your winter hiking game.
Yeah, especially with snow. We could have, I forgot, they call them like snowballs or something underneath the dog's fur that they can just accumulate, and they never melt. They don't freaking melt. So that could have a big impact.
Yep.
Yeah. So awesome job, Ranger Peterson. Of course, always kicking ass. Our Rangers are so awesome. We'll get them back. I don't know, maybe have some winter talk about their winter experiences and stuff in the Catskills. Get in touch with them soon. So next, Devil's Kitchen lean-to. We're talking about coming off of the Plattekill Road area, going up the Devil's Path. Per part of Devil's Cap lean-to is being relocated. But I put on this show notes, there is a New York State catch. So New York State likes to play games with us when saying, we're going to have this trail all figured out. We're going to release these trail conditions and stuff like that. But there's a catch with this lean-to. It's not going to be rebuilt for a very long time. So it had a new roof and a new floor. So not really, it says in the notes of the plan, it will not be replaced soon. It will no longer be maintained and will be replaced by a new one at another location when no longer safe and habitable. This will probably not occur until after the first revision of the plan in 6 to 10 years. I'm glad they told us because, 6 to 10 years. Yeah, I'm anticipating something within a year, 2 years, and then 6 to 10 years. That's basically it's going to happen with the informal trails, 6 to 10 years.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the timeline here as you are. And I remember reading in the recently released report that you're referring to, the DEC since the 90s has been just trying to put this lean-to into a state of disrepair where it's obsolete. And apparently it's hung on longer than they expected. But I do get the fact, I do understand what they're talking about, that this lean-to really has the trail go right between it and almost the fire pit, if you will. But let me ask you, Stosh, how many times in the last 3 years have you hiked to that lean-to or past that lean-to?
I would say
zero.
I would say the past 3 years, maybe twice.
Really? You've gotten over there?
Yeah, because I love to do the I would say going from, I like doing the full Indian Head loop. I would say it's a nice thing, but I haven't stopped at the lean-to. It's actually a pretty shitty location, especially in the summer when there's nettles freaking surrounding that thing.
Yeah. Well, this is the lean-to that's past the turnoff where the Devil's Path heads towards Indian Head.
It's the Echo Lake.
Yeah. Well, it's not at Echo Lake.
Well, it's the Echo Lake kind of approach to Plattekill and then going over to Echo Lake.
It's on basically the Hall Road that goes from the Devil's Kitchen area down to Overlook.
Yep.
Okay. And it's if you're hiking out that Hall Road from Platte Cove, you make your left or you make the right turn to go up Indian's Head before you get to this lean-to.
Yeah.
So I don't think many people really go by this lean-to.
I see it.
Yeah.
But I don't care for it. I mean, it might be, it's the last stop for someone doing the traverse from west to east.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice trail. There's some great view spots of the Hudson Valley along that trail. I don't see what the big deal is about keeping it where it is versus relocating it.
Well, the relocation in the plan, it's because, it's so close to the creek and stuff. and stuff. It's just they want to relocate it a little bit further away from the creek so there's less damage from water. But like, with going by that in the previous years, once again, that place is surrounded by nettles. Like it is the lean-to. You're basically protected because nobody's going to enter there for the nettles. So, I mean, that's what I've seen.
Yeah. I just don't know why they're spending the money. If they're going to spend money like that to hire a helicopter to drop building materials in that location, do you know where they should spend their money? Bridge over the east. Yes. Take it away.
I already know. So yeah, you're telling me you don't like, I mean, I've done that loop from Pridger Road several times. I love that loop. That's one of my favorites because you go over, it feels like you go over multiple peaks and then you have that nice little, it's long, but you have that nice gradual, once again, when you separate from the Devil's Path to the Pridger Road area, you have that nice kind of level walk back to your car. It's a little bit longer hike, but it's a beautiful hike.
Yeah, it's a nice hike.
I mean, but yeah. So once again, so expect a new lean-to soon, but in 6 to 10 years. So
maybe not in my lifetime.
Yeah, who freaking knows? Once again, we had the informal trails.
Yeah.
That was just brought to us, and it was like, we don't know when we're going to do this. So, Lefton, what is it, Commissioner Lefton? Get a hold of us. You want to get on the show and explain yourself.
Yeah.
So,
if you need help prioritizing how you spend your money in the Catskills, come on the show. We'll straighten things out for you.
Yeah, ask us, ask your hiker. So, what about this? The DEC seeks inputs on policies regarding the use of mobility aid devices on state lands. I didn't see this, Tad. You added this last second.
Yeah. So apparently, the article starts off by saying the DEC manages nearly 5 million acres of land to conserve natural resources while providing diverse outdoor recreational opportunities. From hiking, bicycling to camping and hunting. And then the commissioner is reported to saying forest and natural areas provide physical and mental health benefits to millions of New Yorkers. And they have a proposed policy to improve transparency and help ensure those benefits are available to people of all abilities. So the New York DEC is going to hold a virtual public meeting on Wednesday, February 4th at 6 p.m. for New Yorkers to learn more and share their input. You need to register for the meeting at the DEC website. And then they're also going to keep the record open for public comments until March 9th. And this is all about where in the public lands managed by the DEC, they're going to permit the use of mobility aided devices, whether those devices are electrical powered or powered by other means. So I'm a proponent of doing reasonable things to make these areas more accessible to people with limitations. So it'll be interesting to see what's on the table and what level of public participation this generates. Also, what'll be interesting to see is if the DEC moves on this faster or slower than their policy considerations for trails on the trailless mountains in the Catskills.
Correct. That's what that's what I was going to say. I was like, let's see how fast this moves. Apparently, I understand. Once again, like you, Ted, I am all for people enjoying every person enjoying the outdoors, and especially, once again, tonight we talk about waterfalls, the negative ions that you get from the sounds, the feel, the mist, stuff like that with Joe about waterfalls. Maybe a lot of these waterfalls could be accessed with, mobility devices by people who would never see Catskill Falls from the platform.
So Stosh has just said that the DEC should pave a walkway down to the base of Catskill Falls.
Not the base. The top is already done. We're good with that. I said that. Yeah. I said the platform.
Okay.
And that, there's a lot of other places too that could be, like up in Albany, there's Cohoes Falls. That's just a huge, massive waterfall along the Hudson. And, several other places. I mean, we talk, Finger Lakes have several areas that are accessible, but, what's going to happen? We don't know how long it's going to take. Might take 6 to 10 years to build a lean-to the size of, what is it, a lean-to? 8 by freaking 14 feet,
Yeah. Maybe 12 by 18 or 12 by 20.
I mean, how long did it? We got to stop talking shit.
Yeah. All right. So it'll be interesting to see what the DEC proposes, where they're going to do it, how long it takes to implement it. And chances are it's really not going to change your hiking experience in the Catskills or other areas like the Catskills.
Correct. And, I will have that, the link in the show notes for the public meeting because, it is important because, I want to see people like me and Tad enjoy some places. To be honest, somebody with a mobile like device could get up to Hunter. I see that pretty good. I mean, except for maybe the top where it's muddy and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, they already have people going on horseback up there.
Exactly. So, like, I could see somebody enjoying that. Balsam Lake, maybe. Unsianta now. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's plenty of places that are quote unquote trailless that we can still go and have fun at when we want to be in the more wilderness and remote areas. So accessibility is important, and we put this out there so you guys would know about it and get involved to the extent that you're motivated to be involved.
Yeah. What else did I took up? I took off to here. So I took this off a little bit earlier. And, I'm sorry, but we're going to chat about it. There's a decline in the thru hikers through the Appalachian Trail. So I had this earlier, Tad, but I decided to remove it because I thought we'd go too much into double top and Graham, but I guess we didn't. And we kind of withhold ourselves for that.
Because we've picked that scab before.
We have. And, there's I recently saw that there's a decline in thru hikers for the Appalachian Trail by 30% from last year. So I had this, I'm sorry, I don't provide you with the email, Ted, so you can look this up. But I read that it keeps declining, of course, since the start of the COVID boom. Everybody saw an increase in the outdoor activities since COVID. And 3,500 Club saw a crazy 130% increase. 46ers did, New Hampshire did, and the Appalachian Trail thru hikers also saw that as well. People wanted to get outside, wanted to get away, wanted to disconnect. And I saw this coming. I was just like, you know what? It is a trend. People are connecting with the outdoors, social media, and it's going to decline. I know it will. And we have seen it in the 3,500 Club. We have seen a major decline in the visitation to the Catskill high peaks, to the Canister, stuff like that. And now we're seeing a decline with the Appalachian Trail thru hikers. They say 30%, but not all people have registered for 2025 as well. But I would say with all that is going to be registered, we're going to see a decline of maybe 20%. And a lot of this has to do with several different factors. We're talking about one of the biggest things is, of course, is money. The rise in the dollar amount, all that other shit that's going on with the United States of America. People do not have the funds to do a thru hike. And a lot of people don't think that, like, oh, I can do a thru hike. I can last 6 months by myself. It's not that easy, and it's not that cheap. You have to have the right gear. You have to have a lot of food and stuff like that. You have to supply shipped to you throughout the area. You have to have people that you can meet, stuff like that. It takes a lot. You have to have security, like safety devices. It takes a lot to thru hike. I'm not a thru hiker. I've done like 4 or 5 days. I'm not a month thru hiker, but once again, I've investigated this. I have thought about this in my lifetime because I'm like, hey, maybe I could do this shit. no, I can't do this. Meeting through hikers, I go down every 2 years to the Shenandoahs, and we do trail magic for through hikers in the Appalachian Trail. And it's one of the most humbling, greatest experiences of my life, because bringing someone a Gatorade, an 8-ounce Gatorade, brings them to life, brings them like happiness, bringing them some freaking M&Ms, brings them to life and happiness. Why? Because they haven't had this for weeks. They haven't had this and stuff like that. So if you think about it, it's expensive to do this. And if you don't go expensive, you kind of have, you missed opportunities of happiness and stuff like that. You're in a drought of like, hey, I haven't had M&Ms for 2 weeks. This fucking sucks. And, or I haven't had a beer for a while. This fucking sucks, and, that's led to the decline in that, because people are getting, out there and seeing the experience of maybe like 2 weeks in and they're done. Like, Ted, did you know that like 80% of the people that start the AT don't finish?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that statistic at all. And maybe I'm surprised by it's only 80%. People set off with the best of intentions and thinking they're prepared, or actually even being prepared, and for a variety of reasons. It's a long journey, and I can see people having to give up before they finish.
I mean, you once again, like time, you have to do 20 mile days, and then your boots, you might have to boots, shoes, stuff like that. You might have to buy new ones every 3 months.
You say that, it makes me think of my daughter finally gave up her 10-year-old hiking shoes that were like torn. The soles were bald on the bottom, yada, yada, yada. She had them for 10 years. They were all over the place. So I don't know, depending on what you start off with on the AT, if you're going to wear it out before you get to the end and need to get another pair of boots to finish, or another pair of shoes. I don't know about that. I could imagine somebody making it from start to finish with the same shoes. And I don't know how expensive it is to go end to end. I'm sure you can look at all that data out there. But if you want to do, you ought to make plans to do it,
Research. Definitely a lot of research, because it's just, I see a lot of the stuff on when I go to the Shenandoahs, and we went last year, and it was a miserable time. It was like 90 to 95 degree weather up in the higher peaks of the Shenandoahs, and people were miserable. And Jessica and I were thinking like, God damn, you have to hike through this for 3 weeks? Like, unbelievable. Like, no way. You're just like, the amount of sweat. Like, God damn. Like, we hiked like three or 4 miles a day. And I was just like, I was done. I was like, I got to go for a swim or a shower or something like that. And it was just insane.
Yeah. It takes a certain mindset, but I think there's also something to the fact that you might start out and just kind of grow into that through hiker mindset.
True. What is that called? Hiker trash,
Yeah.
We heard about that with several people. Mo talked about that, and he is one of those guys that enjoys through hiking thoroughly. He enjoys like supporting it and stuff like that. And I could see myself doing something along the lines of with the PCT or something like that, where it's kind of a little bit more more views and stuff like that. But I can't see the AT. It's I don't know. Maybe someday. I'm still young.
Yeah. Well, different people do it for different reasons, and just because you and I don't seem to have the enthusiasm for it doesn't mean that others don't. And you ought to go check out stuff like that if you feel that it's something that you want to try out. Start off doing a week on the trail, then 2 weeks, and then maybe dive into the AT, a year later or something.
Yeah.
I just don't see myself doing something that's like a multi-month endeavor like that.
Yeah. Like I would say, yeah, definitely multi-month, maybe a week or two. Yes. maybe, but
Yeah, the most, when I was much younger, the most I did was about 2 weeks on trail. That was plenty.
correct. Yeah, I agree. So I added that at last second, so that was pretty cool. Actually, we did it pretty well. So let's give a big shout out to the monthly supporters: Bob Lacklin, Chris Gerby, and Jeff Jotz, Vicky Ferreira, Mikey S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy Anderson, Denise Weiss, Vanessa, Jim C., and Eric. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Once again, your support goes not only into the show, but back into the Catskills. Also, amazing love to our sponsors. Outdoor Chronicles Photography. You should capture your love story against breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect unique bond and nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on every single platform. Also, discover the wilderness with Trailbound Project. Our expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offer unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trailbound Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. They'll be on a future episode in February, so Scott and Joe are going to be joining us. It's going to be a fantastic chat. So the big question, are you really outdoors? Mention the podcast on one of your hikes through social media, and we'll chat about it on the show. Tag us by typing, it's pretty long, sorry, at ITL Catskill MTM Podcast on your post. So, Danielle, which in the... Whoa, time out.
I'm just going to forewarn everyone. I counted 14 people who tagged us that Stosh has picked up to mention. So if you're drinking a beverage, maybe now's a good time to replenish it before we dive into this, or, just sit back and relax and hear about 14 of our faithful listeners and their groovy hike. So take it away, Stosh.
And if I didn't get you, I'm sorry. Once again, I do a full-time job. I do a part-time job as well. I try to get everybody as I can. So call me out, send me a message by, hey, asshole, you didn't get us on your last one. There's no problem with that. So Danielle, Witch in the Wilderness, got some great books to read up on. The Grid by Ken Posner and A Forest History by Michael Kudish. I saw those books. Looks like she's got some good reading to go on.
Yeah. That Mike Kudish's book is kind of like a staple of mine. I check it out all the time, particularly when I'm hiking off trail and I want to tie in some cool Catskill history and features to an off trail hike.
Yeah. If you're looking to basically see what you've been through when you did that last hike, Dr. Kudish's book is definitely an amazing piece to go on. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So Chris at Catskill Fly Fishing, he's going to be on the show soon in February. We're going to have him on, talk about Catskill Fly Fishing. Was on the Devil's Path before the crazy snow melt happened. Michael, a.k.a. Dr. Storm 217, was at Bramley Mountains. People are starting to precipitate in the new Fire Tower Challenge, which is great to see. Todd T-Bold Outdoors was enjoying an early winter morning hike on what it looks like to be Slide Mountain. I saw his photo. I can see the profile of Wittenberg, and it was Slide. I love Slide. Lisa, Chaotic Quixotic, tagged Table, Lone and Rocky on a beautiful winter day, said it was one of the toughest days that she's battled. So good job, Lisa. Doing after her grid like always. She's killing it. Nicholas, a.k.a. Golden Money Cat, went up Mount Colvin, the Adirondacks, to kick off 2026. You're a little outside the line,
But
Nicholas.
that's okay.
But that's okay.
Cool.
I appreciate you tagging us. Golden Money Cat, Nicholas is always tagging us. So, speaking of always tagging us, Scott, Catskill Mountains Brood, did Balsam Lake for number 11 of the single season winter. Then when the next day they did North Dome and Cheryl, so that's 13, single season winter. Scott is ripping it up.
Yeah, it looks like he's off to a pretty good start on a single season winter, to have 13 under his belt and, roughly 2 full months to go plus. Yeah, he's got a good head start on that.
And he's dealt with all conditions, snowshoe, trail breaking, stuff like that. So he's gotten the full winter experience other than just ice. So good for him.
So the next few weeks might be a little different, but
I don't know. This Thursday we're seeing some snow coming, man. Did you see the forecast?
No, I haven't been watching that close yet.
Okay, I will tell that later.
All right, stay tuned.
All right, so look who's back. Pink Pony 818 Tracy.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering what, happened to Tracy. Maybe, holidays with the cats, the horses. She kind of got sidetracked from her hiking endeavors.
Yeah, so she's back to hike Macedonia Park in Connecticut. So
if those are the pictures that she just posted from this past weekend, which I would assume they are, check them out for the rock formations. That's like maybe 8 or 9 photos back in her series. You see some really, really cool curvy rocks. It's created by heat and interacting with sedimentary rock and then the plate collision and all that stuff. But it's there. I found them very interesting. So check those out. You don't see that very often in the Catskills, if at all.
But yeah, definitely. So cool stuff. Once again, not a couple hundred miles away, and they have totally different formations. It's really cool stuff to see. Daniel Passes did Hunter and Southwest Hunter on a good winter day. Danielle, Witch in the Wilderness, did Mossy Glen to Lake Oswing. Is that how you say it?
Owassing.
Owassing.
Yeah. Forget the T.
Forget the T. That's what you said last time. Yeah. And then I had post-hike bites at Rough Cut Brewing. So we'll look into that. So Tad will maybe get that later on.
I'll have to check that out.
So I would like to formally apologize to Hiker Joe NY. So we always said it was Hiker Joey. It's Hiker Joe NY.
Oh, okay.
Joe Ticino.
Yeah.
Tagged North Dome and Cheryl from Shaft, and 22 and 23 is Winter 35. So sorry, Joe. Really appreciate you calling me out.
Yeah, Hiker Joe NY. You got to check out his feed. He's got some really cool stuff, some cool visual things, and I've said it before. I'll say it again. When he's not hiking the Catskills or in the Adirondacks, he's hiking some pretty cool things in the Finger Lakes region and further west in New York State.
Yeah.
So Hiker Joe NY gets around.
He does. He's ripping up. Danny, Mighty Mischievous, is back. I don't know where he was. I think he was breaking trail somewhere. So
yeah.
Do you know where he was?
I'm not.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I'm not. I have a suspicion. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to be embarrassed by being wrong. And if I did say and I was embarrassed, I'm just going to say it's the Big Peach Imperial Hudson North Cider talking and not me.
Okay, yeah. So Little Legs, Lisa NY, new one. Thank you, Lisa, for tagging us. Knocked off Big Indian for only 3 left over winter and our all season 3,500. So, I mean, we haven't heard from you since now, so that's kicking ass and taking names.
Awesome.
Yeah, so awesome. And Kelsey G went up Panther today, Tuesday. Just tagged us probably like 2 hours ago on a beautiful sunny day. Did Panther, beautiful views from Panther and Giant Ledge. So thank you, Kelsey G.
She is, if you follow her on Instagram, she's getting out there and hiking multiple days a week. She's really ripping it up out there. So kudos to her. Keep on hiking.
Definitely.
Okay.
What else you got?
All right.
Anything else?
Stosh, I don't know if you got this, but I have here a envelope that came in to me from Steve Aaron, and I'm going to open it up live on air. Can you hear it?
No, it's blocking out.
Is it really? Oh, that sucks.
Outrageous.
So, yeah, Steve sent me his annual Catskill and Schwangung Scenes 2026 calendar. Steve is a photographer. He's been on the show a couple times. Steve is a really cool dude. So he sent me complimentary one of his calendars for the upcoming or for this year, and just glancing at it, some great photos. So thanks, Steve. I hope you're listening. I really appreciate it. You can go online. Maybe Stosh will put it in the show notes where you can get a copy of his phenomenal 2026 calendar. It starts off with a photo of the traps in Millbrook Mountain in the Mohonk Reserve, part of the Schwankonk Ridge. Great stuff.
Yeah. And I, thank you, Steve. You sent that to me as well. I appreciate it. And Steve is going to be on the show in February, late February, and we're going to be talking about him skiing the Catskill areas back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s compared to now. Oh. He's been skiing prolifically in the Catskills since the 70s. So, I know you have a lot of experiences with that as well, Tad. So it's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah. I'll tune in for sure.
I mean, I freaking hope so. So, yeah. All right. So once again, I just lost that page that we were looking at. Thank you to everyone who has tagged the show. Really appreciate it. Get out there, hike those high peaks, but also remember to be safe out there as well. So let's also, once again, buy us a hard cider to support the show. If you think we're doing a good job and you want to show us some support, buy us a coffee hard cider on buymeacoffee.com. Link is in the show notes and on the webpage as well. Also, rate the show. I don't know if that does anything for us, but it makes us feel good if you rate the show 5 stars or more. I don't think there's or more you can do, but
well, it's good for our sponsors. It increases their profile on social media, etc., and they support us. We support you, so it helps out everyone.
Correct. So. Awesome. So drinking anything, Ted, we're both having Hudson North. So we want to chat about that real quick?
Yeah, it's interesting. A few weeks ago, I had a cider on the show. It was unsweetened, unflavored other than apples. And I kind of dug it for its simplicity and
nice.
Just, yeah, kind of like rawness. This is, first of all, high test. I'm, kind of like 2/3 of the way through it. Feeling
pretty good. It's pretty big.
I'm feeling a little buzz here, and I'm not going to go out and operate a motor vehicle when we're done recording. But yeah, I mean, it's just the big peach flavor, a little too much for me, but I can see why people like this. And I could see it maybe in the summer on a really, really hot day, pulling one of these down. So,
great.
The Hudson North Big Peach Hard Cider, made with New York apples, coming in at a hefty 8.2 alcohol volume.
Oh yeah, you're
Josh,
killing.
what do you got? What do you got?
I ain't got no Big Peach, but I got a Hudson North Vanilla Chai. I've been looking for this for a while up here in Oneonta and even in the Catskills. I went to down in Wyndham and looked in Phoenicia and stuff. Couldn't find it. So I went to in my local Hannaford area, dug deep behind the caramel apple was a Hudson North Vanilla Chai. It's pretty good. I got to admit, It's only 5% though.
So do you think somebody buried it back there because they were stashing it for later?
I don't think so. I think it was rotating. They have it in the back room, so they're probably rotating the caramel apple out, and then they bring the vanilla chai.
Okay.
So it's good. I think it's fantastic. It's not as pungent as the Big Peach or the Big Apple that they have, which is, I think, really good.
When you say pungent, are you saying you think the Big Peach is dry?
I would say, yeah, a little bit,
really?
But more of a blast in alcohol content.
Yeah, I feel the alcohol punch out of the Big Peach, and I also feel like it's a sweet, sugary drink, which is for me unusual to have something like this. So
true.
I'm also feeling that. But
that's good. That's what I like to hear. Now we get to hear about Tad's previous hike.
Oh, okay. So, wow. I don't know where to start with my previous hike other than to say this past Saturday, I was a little concerned about the weather and what I had on my Catskill grid list. And it was kind of a toss-up given the time constraints on when I needed to be home by, whether I hike Balsam Lake or Westkill. And what I had planned for Balsam Lake was going to be kind of a interesting off-trail bushwhack to Balsam Lake Mountain. And I opted against that at the last minute and went and did Westkill. But I have to say, on the way over to hike Westkill, I was just really like feeling bummed out because I've hiked it so many times on trail, and I wasn't prepared to do a bushwhack other than bushwhacking it a way that I bushwhacked it many times before. But that just kept grating on me on my way over. So as I'm driving over, I'm thinking that I have not bushwhacked Westkill from the notch itself since 2019. Yeah. And let me tell you, that was a doozy because I went right into the deep part of the notch between Westkill and Southwest Hunter, which is a pretty steep notch. Other than the road going through there, you could literally, if you wanted to, step on both mountains at the same time.
Yeah.
That's how narrow it must have been way back then. And so back in 2019, I did whack both Southwest and Westkill from that or through that notch. So I didn't go deep into the notch on Saturday, but I went deep enough to really like get some, what's the phrase I'm looking for, Stosh? Vertical madness. Vertical madness came to my mind. I'm going up. It was kind of, I left the trail.
Alex, my buddy Alex.
Yeah, from Stosh's buddy Alex. I remember he used that phrase multiple times. So I hike out the trail from the end of Spruceton Road. I go over the bridge over the Westkill, and then instead of banging that immediate right and hiking the trail to Westkill, I just continue on that old haul road towards the notch. But before I got into the narrowest part of the notch, I took a right and started to go upgrade. And then I remembered, because it just kept getting steeper and steeper. And so then I remember Alex's phrase for that. He called it vertical madness. And that was kind of what I was experiencing, because although there was a lot of snow on the ground, I had my snowshoes on, and sometimes I was punching through, up almost past my knees in certain spots. For the most part, the snow wasn't that deep going all the way up. But what was notable about the snow is the type of consistency or wetness in the snow where you kind of had to double punch your foot in before you could put weight on it to then step up and go up vertically. And that can get tiring if you're like double pumping in your foot with each step. So I was mindful of that, although I was only doing one mountain on Saturday. I didn't want to overwork, but I made it up, and there did come a point in time where I kind of looked around, and yeah, it was pretty steep. And there was a lot of animal tracks on my way up. So I was generally following the animal tracks to find the chutes and get up over the moderate amount of ledges. But sure enough, at about just below 3,200 feet, I kind of ran into the crux on my way up. I'm going to say it was about an 8-foot
crux.
Crux.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, CRUX. It's the hardest part.
Like John Kruk from the Philadelphia Flyers? Or Philadelphia Phillies?
I don't know. If he's a good cross-trekker, then maybe the name would be handy. But if he's not, then it's not handy. But it was this. Yeah, this was going to be there. There wasn't a lot of ledging, or the ledging that there was, I was able to avoid until just shy of 3,200 feet. I was following some deer tracks. And then the deer seemed to go downhill, which I was not interested in. And then I followed, of all things, bobcat tracks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And the problem with following bobcat tracks is what, Stosh?
They tend to hop all over the damn place.
No. Well, they tend to leap down things, which I did see. But bobcats can also go under the lowest of low branches on balsam fir.
Oh, nice.
Right,
yeah.
Which you can't, you don't want to, because you got to belly crawl through the snow if you're going to follow the bobcat track. So I got to the spot where the little chute that I was more of like a traverse or side hilling up the slope, but I was making a lot of vertical gain with it. But the Bobcat was able to go through a pretty thick area that I wasn't going to able to go through. And I was confronted with the choice of either just turning hard right and going straight up the mountain, which was kind of like a 8-foot vertical climb right there, or doubling back and looking for another chute. But there was a couple trees sticking out of that rock ledge or cliff, if you will. And so I decided I'm going to take off my snowshoes, put on my trail crampons, and make a go of it, which I did. And so I got up and over that, went and hunted down some lookouts, which if you watched my reel, I took a few shots from. I'm going to say I found at least 4 rock outcroppings overlooking the notch that
Nice.
provided interesting viewpoints. And what I found to be most interesting about these rock outcroppings for viewpoints was what, Stosh? What was the most unusual thing I found?
That when you were looking over to the east, that whole area was once a logging area, and it was freaking full of railroads. Not railroads, but metaphorically speaking.
No, let me just finish swallowing my Hudson North Big Peach. And I'll tell you, because as I mentioned before, I was following these Bobcat tracks for most of the way up. And then I had to make the hard right to go up over this crux. And then I continued to follow the Bobcats because these Bobcats were going to all of these overlooks. And you would see how they were lying there, moving around. And then it seemed as if some of them they would jump off of and jump down like 12 or 15 feet into the snow below. It was the weirdest thing.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have this image of these Bobcats just like hanging out up there, watching down in the notch for animals to go through. That's my sense. That's what I took away from it. So after I was kind of, amused by this Bobcat activity, then I turned around and I made my way through some terraces, some balsam groves. They weren't that thick. Eventually made up to the trail and got to, Buck's Lookout on Westkill?
Yeah, Buck's Ridge. Yeah, Buck's Lookout, yeah.
And then at that point, I met this guy, Frank, who I had seen in the parking lot before I started. And he was there taking in the view, and we had a nice chat. And he's new to Catskill hiking. So in about 5 minutes, I imparted to him all of my knowledge of Catskill winter hiking. And then I set out towards the summit. And on my way back, I passed him, said hi. But I, made recommendations to him about, bringing extra clothes, how to pack your snowshoes, carrying a dry bag, yada, yada, yada. You need to be prepared for up to 2 to 3 hours of, sitting, waiting for a rescue if you ever have the need to be rescued in the Catskill in the winter. But, the important thing I said is you need about 30 liters of gear and a pack for safe and responsible winter hiking in the Catskills in the winter. And so, Stosh, why the fuck am I telling you all this stuff that I told to Frank when you already know this and you probably have like a 45 or 50 liter pack full of an REI store worth of stuff? It's because after I left Frank and I got like another mile down Westkill, who was coming up the trail?
Not me.
Not you, but the proverbial winter hiker that didn't have anything other than a pair of like hiking shoes, tracks, those little tracks, not even spikes, wearing tracks on his hiking shoes. He was like the guy in our DEC story, right? Hiking shoes, tracks, no backpack, no water, trekking poles. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
I just spent like 5 minutes with this guy, Frank, telling him what winter safety was all about, 30 liters of gear, yada, 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 yada. And the person he's going to see going up when he's on his way down is somebody with like nothing.
Yeah.
Why the fuck should I listen to this old guy?
Right.
You don't need anything in the winter when you hike in the Catskills. So in a future episode, we're either going to hear about Frank not being prepared, which I hope not, or whoever this guy is. Maybe this guy, I should have asked him, are you 31 years old and where's your dog? Because he might be that guy that they found over on Pequot Notch a few weeks ago.
True.
So there you go. That's my hike report from this Saturday. And with one more swig of my Hudson North Big Peach, you're going to hear the big slur from me. There you go. So what about you? I mean, you're going to tell us about your hike or about the RV show?
I'll tell you about I didn't do any hikes, which is I'm not embarrassed about, but you know what? I needed the rest. But Jessica and I went this weekend to Sunday to an RV show up in Syracuse. I thought this was a great opportunity to maybe like check out our future, like that we have in progress. You know, once our parents pass away, you know, I love the Catskills and stuff, but you know what? I want to travel. I want to be on the road. And, you know, what better way to do it by accessing BLM land that we have out there in the West, you know, in Utah and California. Hopefully we'll still have it.
Yeah. Or you can just go to Greenland.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, correct. Jesus Christ.
It's the Hudson North talking. What can I say?
Yeah, it is. But we Jessica and I look to have drivable Class C ones. We don't want huge pull tow campers and stuff like that. We like the Class C that are small, have a bathroom, have air conditioning, have a nice little like queen to full size bed, so we can fit a dog in there. And we had a great time looking at them. We had great thoughts. We had great questions. We asked a lot of questions. We, you know, just explored so much, and it was a great time. And you know that was the day. And today, you know, I had the opportunity to hike, but I freaking slept in. I slept.
You're getting old on me, man. You're getting
10
old. You're like
hours,
you act older
man.
than you slept for 10 hours.
10 hours.
I haven't done that in so long. So what? Tell us, how big is a Class C RV?
I think it's 24 feet, 24 to
feet.
28 feet.
How many miles do they typically get to the gallon?
Do you want that? Like 16.
Well, that's not bad. 16.
I mean, that's
to the
diesel.
gallon.
If you don't go diesel, it's like 8.
Yeah. I just, you know, when I think about something like that, I think a pop-up trailer makes a lot more sense. Obviously, it's not as refined. It doesn't have as, you know, the amenities that an RV would have. But you can leave it at the campground or wherever you're camping, take your vehicle, go other places without being burdened by all that other stuff, and then double back and pick up your trailer later on.
True.
That's my 2 cents. So.
But we want. I hate to say it. I'm a millennial. I like air conditioning, and I like to have like a refrigerator full of stuff. Because, you know, I think would
that stuff be Hudson North hard cider?
Hudson North hard cider, you know, a bunch of other stuff. And then, you know, once we're out west, we're going to have like a, you know, during the winter, we'll have that time out there. But during the summer, we'll come back here to the East Coast and enjoy, you know, the Shenandoahs, the Catskills, stuff like that, you know. So I like coming back to air conditioning. I'm sorry, but I sound like privilege and stuff like that, but you know, it's just something I like, and I want to relax. I like to like today, you know, I slept 10 hours. Like I just passed out and I needed to relax. And you know, this weekend we're going to the winter weekend, the 3500 Club winter weekend. We're gonna go, you know, have some dinner with people and maybe hike and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it. So
cool.
Got some rest.
Yeah, but this weekend you won't have your RV because that's future plans.
Future. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Beyond this is this is a 10-year plan. A lot of people like impulse buy and just freaking buy on the spot. Absolutely not. Jessica and I were scoping out stuff, and we're going to be like, you know, I hate to say this, but you know, it's a plan after we want to be with our parents as much as we can before they pass away, and then after that. You know, I love my family. I love that. But, you know, got to live life, man.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little story if you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes is good.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, a friend of mine who is in his early 70s, he and his wife are grandparents. They have one child. And from that child, they have 2 grandchildren, I believe, ages 8 and 10. And so my friend has been very successful in his career, working as a professional engineer, and he continues to work an ungodly amount of hours. But 2 summers ago, I told him when his grandkids were 8 and 10 that this was the time for him to buy an RV for the summer and take his grandkids cross country and hit all of the big attractions, yada, yada, yada. And it took a little convincing. And if you know me well, I try to do this to all people. I think, Stosh, I've actually tried to plant this seed in your head a couple times. But my friend, he took me up on it. It was somewhat of a hard sell, but yeah, he did take me up on it. And he still to this day thanks me for sharing with his grandkids just a tremendous summer of fun in their RV. I don't know if it was a Class C or not, how big or small it was. And there was a couple times when they did it that the kids' parents, his son and daughter-in-law, hooked up with them and spent some time with them on this journey. And to our listeners, our frequent listeners, they know that I have a daughter that's out there doing this right now. And I encourage everyone. I did it once in my lifetime. I encourage everyone at some point in their life just to untether themselves from society and go out there and explore to their heart's content. And I forget the fellow's name. He was the guest that you hooked us up with a few weeks ago. He said he went out west X number of years ago, and the only thing he did was to come back and get his stuff. And he hasn't, he moved out west and he's still out there.
Yeah. I mean, we plan on coming back because we love, of course, the East Coast in the summer.
Yeah. We
love the fall. So it's just a matter of, I have, once again, it sounds bad. I work with Walmart, so it's a great corporation to hop from job to job every 4 months. So I can do that. I can go from, Utah to California up to, Washington and back to here to Oneonta maybe every 4 months. And it's just, I find that very...
Do it.
Yeah, dream-worthy, I would have to say.
So does that mean the podcast is coming to an end?
Not at all. No,
we're going to have to change it because it's no longer to be inside the line. We're going global. We're inside the line now.
Yeah,
then we're going to be Class C RV around the country, and then eventually it's just going to be global.
This is everywhere. 10-year plan, man. No way.
I'll probably be gone in 10 years. So.
Nah, you will. You'll still be here. We'll still be kicking ass. So. That's excellent. So once again, everybody get out this weekend. We'll talk about the weather forecast in a second. Volunteer, New York Digital Trail Conference, 3500 Club, Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club Visitor Center, Jolly Rovers Trail Crew, Bramley Mountain Fire Tower. Also, if you want stickers, get a hold of me. I will give them to you for free. I will send them for free. Let me know. You'll get free stickers. So, Tad, let's break into the weather forecast.
Let's do it.
Here's your weekend weather forecast sponsored by ourselves. So Friday, January 16th, expect mostly sunny skies with a high of 23, a low of 14, and a wind chill reaching down to -5 degrees. At night, there is a chance for snow, maybe up to 1/4 of an inch. On Saturday, January 17th, expect mostly sunny skies again, a high of 23 and a low of 0 degrees with a wind chill of -4. On Sunday the 18th, expect mostly cloudy skies with a high of 9 degrees, a low of 9 degrees as well, with wind chills at times reaching down to -6 degrees. Remember, enjoy your weekend, be safe, be smart, and don't become tomorrow's rescue story. Let's get on to the last set of sponsors, and then we'll get on to Joe's story. So, discover Camp Catskill in Taylorsville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top-quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is here to help every hiker, from beginners to seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenirs and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also, embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, and even backpacking. Join our supportive community to embrace nature and Jesus.
It's the hard cider.
Yeah. Join our supportive
Glad I didn't have the chai.
right? Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and a healing at no cost. Take your next step with another summit and ascend to new heights of resilience and joy. Apply today at anothersummit.org. Woo. All right, so let's get on to the guests of the night.
Let's go.
So tonight, once again, I have a tough time with last names, Joe. Joe Giese?
Got it. Thank you.
Got it. That's
Wow.
2 in a row. I know, Ted, right? 2
I'm
in a row.
impressed. Yeah.
Luckily she helped me out before prehand, so I would have gotten it wrong. So thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
I wouldn't have admitted.
I appreciate being here with two hikers. Hiking is like my favorite thing in the world. I've done it since I was 5 years old, and I'm still doing it.
Awesome.
I hope to be still doing it at your age as well too. I mean, forever until I kind of like to die on the mountain. What? I didn't say that. So, but so how about Joe? You give a little background about yourself, and then we can just keep jumping into it and stuff like that.
Professional background. My professional background is I started out at the University of Texas at Austin. And because I didn't know what I was going to study, or I was very envious of people around me who knew that they wanted to be a biologist and they would study biology. I had no plan like that. And so I went into American Studies. And basically, it became what I did the rest of my life. In American Studies, you take a subject, and I took Frank Lloyd Wright's contribution to American architecture, and you travel around and you talk to people, and then you write a dissertation. And how is that any different from being a journalist or an author? You talk to people, you write something. Sometimes you end up with a book. But what it also taught me is that I was in a disadvantageous position. I needed more money to travel around and interview all these people I needed to see. And so luckily, a few years ago, I was talking with the University of Texas American Studies Department, and I said, I want to set up an endowment so that the students in the department don't end up like me, like wishing if they're doing something on okay, here's one of the students, the recent student I spoke to, after setting up the endowment. He's doing a piece, he's studying the Chinese population of El Paso. Now, I have been, I know, yeah, he does need some help. I have been to El Paso many times. I have relatives there. I never knew it had a Chinese population. So I was pleased to be able to enable him to help do this. But after the University of Texas, I walked into, my parents were living in Houston at the time. I walked into the paper there, it's no longer there, the Houston Chronicle, and said I wanted to write for them. And the guy looked at me and he said, well, we've never hired someone who wasn't a journalism major. But okay, we'll hire you. And I knew I was not going to stay in Houston. I knew I was going to end up in New York. But I stayed for 6 months. I learned what you have to do in a newsroom. And then my first job offer I had in New York was I was interviewing at CBS Television News. And they wanted to send me back to Houston to report from NASA. That's when NASA was doing a lot of work out of Houston. I went, no way. I just left Houston to come to New York City. So anyway, I ended up working at PBS and doing a lot of wonderful documentaries, interviewing scientists and people of real extraordinary achievement all across the country. And
wow. How did that break into, like, so you were in journalism, and then did you break into being an author as well after that?
Well, the first book I wrote, I was doing short documentaries for WNBC Television News in New York, and someone saw me and said, in a position to do something about it, said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, my favorite subject is really food. This was before there was a Food Network and a Food this and a Food that. And I said, I'd like to be the food reporter. So they gave me that position to do, and then out of that, Doubleday approached me. It's so different from how it is today. I mean, a publisher approaching you, no, no, no. Now you have to scurry around. And anyway, Doubleday approached me and said they'd like a book about food and nutrition. And just to show you how different the environment was back then, Nelson Doubleday himself hosted a dinner for me. And Nancy Tuckerman, who had been running the White House for Jackie Onassis, and they were both not in the White House anymore because, unfortunately, of Jack Kennedy's situation. And so Nancy needed something to do. So Nancy said, "Oh, let's put all the top food people in New York together on a stage with Joe, me, and her new book." And I mean, nobody would do that anymore, like get the New York Times food reporter, the New York Times restaurant critic, all these people on the stage just because of my new book. It was just a totally, totally different environment. But what I ended up loving to do the most, rather than television, and I think a lot of people think, oh, television, that must be glamorous and fun, and your face gets splattered everywhere. I love doing radio, and at a certain point, I had done a different book called A Woman's Path, and it was about interviewing women around the country who were succeeding in male-dominated career fields, and the stories were fabulous. And so I approached Marketplace Radio here in Los Angeles and said, look, I've got 50 fabulous stories of women succeeding in male career fields. And the only thing you have to do at Marketplace, aside from obviously telling a good story, is you also have to follow the economics in the story, the money trail. And I said, I can do that. You know how much this woman gets paid for being a pilot in the Alaskan wilderness. We can talk about that. And so what I found out that I really loved doing is I loved doing radio, and radio loved me, apparently. I did 33 stories of women
Wow.
of women succeeding in male-dominated career fields, and I won a ton of awards. And so finally, the producer comes to me and says, "What you're doing is great, but let's do something else." And so I did, but I always loved radio, and I guess maybe radio. I never thought about this before, but maybe radio shares some of that quality with podcasts. You don't get,
I would say so.
yeah, you don't get, what's the word, disturbed or distracted by all the visuals. You hear somebody's voice, you hear their story, you can concentrate on it maybe better. But that was really my love. But then, of course, since I'm a writer, with the current situation I was going through in 2018, I ended up writing a book about it. This is my current book, the one You'll Never Walk Alone, a hiker's memoir of adventure, tragedy, and defying the odds. And so would you like to know what happened in 2018, or should I talk to you about my favorite places in the world to hike?
Well, let's start like your passion about the outdoors and hiking. When did that start out to be?
Well, that is a really good question. It probably started when I was 5 years old. I lived in Seattle on Lake Washington Boulevard. And back in those days, mothers would make little pinafore dresses for little girls with lace everywhere. And so I was always wearing one of these little pinafore dresses. And we lived right next to Seward Park. Seward Park in Seattle is one of the most beautiful parts in the world. I didn't know it at the time that it was designed by the Olmsted brothers who designed Central Park in New York City, but it was. I just know I loved it. So I would leave the house at 5 years old, go down to the sidewalk that was right alongside the Lake Washington, go into the park. I'd take a couple pumps on the swing, and then I'd wander up into the old growth forest where there was a cathedral of these green trees, 2, 3 stories high. And there I am, just this little 5-year-old in the pinafore dress. And then I would wander back down wander home. And there was a retired cop who lived next door to us. And he said to my mom, you might consider that might not be such a good thing for her to go wandering into the park by herself. And my mom, to her credit, said, well, she likes it. And so, there I became, I guess, an adventurer at about 5 years old and never stopped.
If you don't mind me asking, Joe, when was 5 years old? So we're talking about, if you don't mind scaling back your age, like 19? What?
Well, I am 78 now, but I will be 79 tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Stosh is going to sing happy birthday to you right now. Take it away, Stosh.
Okay.
No. Just kidding.
Happy birthday.
No,
I'll do it then.
no.
To Joe. Happy birthday to Joe.
me.
All right. So Joe, I'm going to tell all the listeners, she went over the radio bit. And for those of you who don't know what radio is, it's where you can listen to people, but you can't see them. We might have some folks out here that don't know what radio is, but I'll also say Joe, who is within hours of turning 79, apparently hiking has been really, really good to her. And I'm not hitting on you, Joe, but Joe at the age of 79 looks really good, really fit. And we're gonna turn it back to you, Joe, telling us about hiking as a young person in Seattle and how that got you on a trajectory towards 2018 and the big event, which I understand didn't happen while hiking.
No, it did not happen while hiking. Some people, one person in particular who has seen some of my hiking pictures, said that hiking must be anti-aging because I never look like I am. She was saying, people are going and getting these different like Botox treatments. Well, you don't need any of that. You're just out there hiking. And I guess I'll talk about the incident that happened that changed my life. But first, could I talk about like one of my most favorite hikes in the whole world, and then you'll see what I was going to lose.
Sure. I mean, let's put it in perspective with, the wind up to the incident, I think, is how important hiking was to your life, your existence, your being. And then all of a sudden it's in a flash. Away. Yeah, just snatched away. So take it away, Joe.
Okay. Well, one of my favorite hikes I've ever done, and I've hiked ever since I was 5 years old, really, was a helicopter hike in New Zealand. And New Zealand, if you've been there or haven't been there, there are a lot of areas that are not accessible, remote areas. And the only way you can get there is by helicopter. And my husband was going on helicopter fishing. And someone said, was that where they dangle the pole, from the helicopter, and then they, fish that way? I go, no. That is where they drop him off in a remote area, and then he fishes all day with nobody else around. And so I said, well, if they can do that for him, maybe they could, I could do helicopter hiking. They could drop me somewhere with a guide and somewhere remote. And it was probably my favorite hike of my entire life. Now, there's a lot of competition for that, but what was so special about it was I did have a guide too, But in New Zealand, there are no predators. It's not like when I hike in Montana and you come around a curve or a corner, and it is not unusual that there's a bear there,
Sure.
and or there's something slithering around your feet. In New Zealand, there are no predators. There's no snakes. There's no bears. It's so refreshing not to have to worry about stuff like that. And so they dropped us, my guide and myself, in this very remote area that from the air looked like beautiful golden grasses blowing from side to side. When you got down there, it turned out it was really a mushy swamp, and your boots sank down like 18 inches. It smelled like it had bad breath, but it was just kind of fabulous to be there in this really remote area. And we hiked to a first waterfall that was kind of a slender waterfall, not one of those big, huge, dramatic ones. And that was lovely. And then we hiked back to Boundary Creek, which was leading to another waterfall. And just picture this, though. We are in the middle of nowhere in New Zealand. There is no one else around. There are no other sounds except for bird sounds and us there. And it was just, okay, Frank Lloyd Wright said he believes in religion, but he spells it nature. And that was how I felt that day. I believe in religion, but there it was. I was there in New Zealand, just surrounded by it, and not having to be afraid like you are sometimes, where the cliff is too steep. I'll tell you about my scariest hike later if you like.
Yeah.
But that it was just lovely, like one of the best days in nature ever. And then we get to the final waterfall, the second one. But on the way there, on Boundary Creek, I collected a lot of lucky stones, and I can tell you about those too if you want to know. But then we get to the final waterfall, and Kat, my hiking companion, I didn't realize that she'd also brought along her some snacks. So we're sitting there in the middle of New Zealand on these stones below the waterfall, close enough so the mist is falling on me. And we can also talk about that, about the scientific benefits. It's called the waterfall effect. And apparently that term was coined.
Negative ions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Good for you. You know how many people don't know that the negative air ions near a waterfall are the positive ones? And it's kind of ironic because it's the negative ones that are the best for us. They have 100,000 negative air ions per cubic centimeter near a waterfall. And in the office where you guys are now, where I am, maybe at best, maybe we have 100 negative air ions near us. So there's a reason why when you're near a waterfall, the mist is, falling on you, and it just feels so good. And you feel so good for a reason, the waterfall effect. And so we were there. Kat, my hiking guide, was giving me snacks, and it was just blissful. And then, of course, to our benefit, the helicopter came back and picked us up, and we were quite a ways from where we started off. But that is an advantage of helicopter hiking.
Yeah. I know New Zealand is one of those places. I haven't been there, but, I fantasize about going there. Is that, it goes from sea level to 13,000 feet dramatically, with glaciers sitting right on the edge of the coast. It's a very dramatic place that you cannot kind of grasp the hold of what it is, because once again, you're by a sea. And then all of a sudden you turn around and there's a massive glacier, a mile away from you. Where else do you see that in the world besides Alaska? It's very, very amazing spot. So it's an incredible experience you have there.
Right. And it was really it was really special. And it wasn't, it was only after we returned from New Zealand 2 years later, there was a piece in the LA Times, actually, a scientific piece that the Robbie 44, the little helicopter I was in, it is not a just a civilized flying machine, but it's actually lethal, and it's had the highest number of citizen fatalities of any helicopter.
Yikes.
And I know, and we didn't know that then. I'm just in heaven. When I was a little girl in Seattle, in addition to hiking over to that park, my father was an inventor, and he had a business repairing the turbines on the Skagit River, a dam up there. And nobody would go with him. No one would fly him in. They said it's too dangerous to land in there. So he and my mom went across the country. They came back on the southern route because he wasn't instrument qualified. And then when he got back to Seattle, no one would go there with him to the dam because they said he hasn't had enough instruction. But I thought this was a kick. So at 6 years old, my dad is there doing the airplane, and I'm there sitting alongside him. And I explained this to to a therapist once, and I thought, did I make this up, or part of this up? And then for some reason, at one point, we came across some old family videos, black and white videos. And there I am, about 6 years old, dressed in like a little pinafore, a curly blonde hair blowing in the breeze. At that flight, the plane had lost its windshield. So you're really blowing. And on the side, right alongside in front of me in the photo, in the black and white video, is the Cascade Mountains covered with snow. So I think when you start out like that, when you're 5 or 6 years old, you don't scare easily. That builds into you a quality of being an adventurer, and it certainly did for me. I mean, flying around in my dad's little plane, when I'm flying around that little helicopter in New Zealand, fear just isn't one of the things I'm worried about.
That's good.
But can I tell you, just for fun,
Sure.
as the opposite side of this is, there's competition for this one, but like, what was the scariest hike I have ever done? And there's several that come to mind, but one in particular was on New Year's Day in Bozeman, Montana. And since I've lived in the South, on New Year's Day, we always start out with black-eyed peas for good luck in the new year. Do you guys do that, or is that too much of a Southern tradition?
Man, this is the first I'm hearing of this. I feel like I've really missed out in life, and maybe that's why I've had such a hard luck life, is I don't start out the new year with some black-eyed peas.
Well,
damn.
If you
Black-eyed black flies.
Yeah, they're delicious. So we started out with the black-eyed peas for good luck, and then we drove out of Bozeman down the Gallatin, that famous river where the famous actor is fishing and a river runs through it.
Yeah.
And
Robert Redford.
What? No, I don't think it was Robert Redford.
No?
Maybe it was. I don't know.
Oh well.
But we end up down at Highlight, and it's winter in Montana. This is January 1st. It wasn't snowing that day, but it's very cold. And where there was snow, there's probably ice. And if there's ice, there's a good chance it could be black ice. And so we start down. We have the hiking poles. The hiking poles we don't have all of our anti-bear equipment because it's winter, and come on, the bears are in hibernation. But we start down this, it's a near vertical cliffside path and it's to get to a waterfall. All over the world, I hike to waterfalls. That's my treat at the end. And so I was introducing my friend Lana to this waterfall on New Year's Day. And so the path at the first part, when you start off on it, was kind of hard packed snow, so you could figure out where to put your feet. And then it got and there's a cliffside there, and I always thought this is so weird. There's a When you read about this hike, it says it's family friendly. And I thought, well, what kind of family would that be? First of all, the trail is narrow, and then there's this cliffside drop off, and it goes down at least 100, 150 feet. And I thought, they could put a guardrail there if they really think this is family friendly. Otherwise, the families really got to hug the uphill side, and it's only what 24 inches across or something, the trail.
Nice.
But I know, really nice if you've got kids with you. So my friend and I are hiking down there. I've got on my favorite hiking boots, oboes, and what was scary about it that day was that that you never knew exactly where to put your foot. You just had to go extra slowly so that you wouldn't misstep and really take a terrible fall. But Lana and I made it down to the waterfall. It was gorgeous. We got pictures of this entire wall where the water usually comes down, and the waterfall was frozen turquoise blue. It was gorgeous. But then
It's Montana.
Right. But then I have to tell you something really scary. I wear these oboes hiking boots. Are you familiar with them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a pair of oboes winter hiking boots that I got from Camp Catskill.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
One of our sponsors. So
Yeah.
very familiar with oboes.
Well, I am a big fan of oboes, and I have been wearing them for years. I love it. You don't have to break them in. I love that you feel so strong and sturdy in them. And to my total surprise, a year ago, oboes honored me as a local hero, and that's because of the story I'm going to tell you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And then what they did as a local hero, every season they kept sending me more oboes.
Wow.
I mean, how cool is that? But so the oboes people wanted to take a photo of me down, and they're going to run this big thing, local hero, down by the waterfall. And the photographer selected a day in April. Well, April in Montana, it's not winter, it's not summer. What is it? And I didn't know what.
Mud.
What?
Mud and
mud
mosquito.
season?
It's what?
Mud and
season.
Mud and mosquito.
I don't quite understand that, but it was.
Wow. Okay.
It was. The trail started out kind of dry at the top, and I thought, well, this is safe. And then it got really icy, slippery, slick black ice. And it's the only time I think I've ever in my life thought I'd like to cut this short and turn around and leave. But I had the photographer there. I had the photographer's assistant. They had driven all the way to this waterfall. And I can't just say I can't do this, but it was hiking on black ice. And I have these yak tracks, these spikes you put on the bottom of your shoes. But I couldn't figure out how to put them on the bottom of my oboes. And that was the scariest day of hiking I've really ever done. It was just black ice. I had my hiking poles. I'm pretty sure that day the hiking poles, I know I had the bear bells on the handles. I had a bear whistle around my neck because the bears can be out of hibernation by April.
Sure.
Luckily,
Yeah.
luckily we didn't see any that day.
Ice is 6 months out of the year up here in the Catskills. That's what we have to deal with up here in the Catskills, and we have really aggressive traction called crampons and spikes for that stuff. Like we use that. We're in that phase right now actually, because we just got a thaw and then rain and stuff like that, and it's been fun here. It's upstate New York. We always get rustled with the weather here. So yeah.
So, Joe, if I can, you've told us about hiking in New Zealand, flying in on a Robinson 44 helicopter, which I've been in with my daughters, by the way.
Oh, good. Don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I'm like, geez, I pulled a fast one there. You've told us about hiking in Montana, waterfalls, narrow trails, ice, black ice, spikes on your oboes boots. But I understand you sustained a really, really, really devastating injury that set you back, and you've come back from that. So why don't you tell us what treacherous hike you were on when you sustained this injury? Was it an unmarked trail? Were you hiking to a waterfall? And please don't tell us
running from a bear.
That you were like sitting at home and the Grubhub person came knocking on your door.
No. But I have been at home in Montana, and there was a bear in the house, but that's a different story.
Wow.
What happened that started this current journey I've been on, it was a rainy day in November. I don't know about the Catskills, but here in Southern California, it does not rain in November usually. And my friend was downstairs at the front door ringing the doorbell. And I was upstairs in my office, and I thought, oh, she's going to get wet out there. I got to race down the stairs and let her in before she gets wet. And I raced down the stairs. I missed the bottom 2 steps, and I went flying horizontally and landed in the entrance hallway. I landed there flat out. And I knew something bad had happened. Of course, we didn't know exactly what it was in the beginning. And my husband came running. He heard me crash, and he let Lana in the front door. And then he and Lana took me to urgent care. And the doctor at urgent care, her face just turned white when she saw the x-ray they had taken there. And she said, I hate to tell you this, but you have a full break of your left Achilles. It's that you have a total rupture. You're going to need surgery. And I go, oh, okay. I immediately, right there from urgent care, I called this orthopedist that had done a little tweaking on us. This is a part of the story that gets really bad. And he said, sure, come in tomorrow morning at 8:00. So by that point, my husband had rented a wheelchair from urgent care. He wheels me into this orthopedist's office, and we had known him because he had done a little tweaking on like my knee or something that happens to be his specialty. And without even looking at the x-ray or really looking at my ankle, he says to me, I can do this. I did Achilles repair 20, 30 years ago.
No, that's times have changed.
Come on, guys. I mean, Tad, if some doctor said that to you, I can do this. I did this. You probably, I'm sure, would say something more like, well, thank you very much, but I think we're going to find a doctor who has done this 20, 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, Joe. So what happened there? You didn't let this guy do the surgery on you, did you?
Yes. And the reason we did is we had a previous good relationship with him. Mm-hmm. He and I'm in a wheelchair at that point. I'm not walking. There's someone right in front of us who says he can do this. And so he puts us on his surgery schedule for the next morning at 8 a.m. And what happened, then he does the surgery. He was supposed to reattach the Achilles tendon that had ruptured completely. He's supposed to sew it back together. And I leave the hospital with my leg's in a cast. I have to elevate it and ice it for 12, 13 days before he gets back from his vacation. I think he was scuba diving in the Caribbean or something. And he comes back looking all tan. And I get wheeled in there in my wheelchair. No, but at that point, I was on a knee scooter. And I get the knee scooter in there. I was called Scooter Girl at that point, too, because I was on the scooter all the time. It was the only way I could get around. And so they start taking all the bandages off. And he says to his nurse, he says, "Wait, stop that. That's not healing. That's infected." And what had happened is that the whole ankle area where the Achilles comes down to the ankle right there had turned all black, and it was necrotic. And I don't think I even knew the word necrosis before that moment, because he said, "That's necrotic," and which means that it had died. In that 12, 14 days after the surgery, before we take the bandages off, I just had what was going on there was a graveyard.
Wow.
And afterwards, a doctor who saw this doctor who did the surgery at some panel somewhere said he appeared to be so out of it that she would not have been surprised if he introduced the infection during the surgery, that he didn't keep his theatricals, his surgery area sanitary enough. I don't know. But anyway, then I was not dealing without that I didn't have an Achilles. I was dealing with that I had a real infection that that you had to take really seriously. And because I can lose my whole foot from the infection. And I ended up with different trauma wound surgeons that tried to deal with, just getting all the infection off. Probably one of the worst things I did was the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, sure.
Oh, well, Ted, you've heard of all of these things.
Yeah. No, I'm well versed in the debridement surgery, probably got a course of IB, antibiotics, saline solutions, the whole nine yards. And for our listeners who aren't familiar with this, it's a very serious complication, albeit a rare complication from Achilles tendon surgery. But the problem is, and what Joe is telling us, is that there is a very, very low blood supply to the Achilles tendon. So when it becomes infected, the infection just eats away at it, necrotic, it dies, and it doesn't grow back. So it's a pretty devastating thing. So the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, tell us about that. It's quite an ordeal. How long? Tell us like what type of facility did you get the oxygen therapy in, how big it was, how long you had to do this for. I mean, different people, it affects different ways. And I hope you're not going to tell us that you were like a chain smoker and you had to sit in there for hours not smoking cigarettes.
No, I am not a chain smoker. Luckily, I never took to smoking, but I am claustrophobic.
Oh, that's not good.
And to go into a hyperbaric oxygen chamber when you're claustrophobic is really, it's really almost like dying. I chose but let's back up a minute. The reason the hyperbaric oxygen chamber might be a good call for me is that they use it a lot for people who have diabetes or who might have gangrene, to give extra oxygen to that area of infection, and it can heal the cells faster. That's the feeling about it that's going to happen, giving them extra oxygen. And So I found the chamber at UCLA that could fit 8 people.
Hmm.
And I
Wow.
thought, with 8 people, it was like a little mini submarine. I thought, with 8 of us, it's big enough that it won't be so claustrophobic. And maybe I'll make some new hyperbaric oxygen friends. I mean, who knows? And I knew I was going to have trouble being in this. What it is, they put you in. Well, first of all, let me just go backtrack. You arrive there, and the submarine is, in the book, I have the exact dimensions of it, but I think it's about 12, 15 feet long, and it's wide enough that there are benches on each side. And the day I was there, the first day I was there, instead of there being 8 of us, there were only 4 of us, which was really great. We could spread out a little bit. And you have to put on the scrubs, like the hospital scrubs that they wear like in surgery, and the little booties and the little cap. So by the time you end up going into this little submarine, you're like half naked with these little scrubs on. And I was really scared. And the woman who had handed me the scrubs knew how nervous I was. So she gave me a little sedative to take. But if I had known how awful it was going to be, I would have taken more sedative. It was unbearable. And also at that point, I'm on the knee scooter. I cannot walk. And the only way I get around is on that knee scooter. And as I approached the door to the little submarine, the guy there, the tech guy there, says, well, you can't take that in there. And I said, well, I'm never without it. I can't walk without it. And I had to leave it outside, and I just hop in on one foot. And there were 3 other people there, but the 2 other guys, they had been there for many of these sessions, and they were very kind of used to the environment. They were calm. There was a woman there who, this was her last session, unfortunately for me, and she sensed how nervous I was, and she held my hand. She got a little, I don't know what the kind of pan that was there, in case I felt like I had to vomit or something. And I thought, and then they play at the far end of the capsule there. They play a movie or something to distract you. There was a Fred Rogers movie playing that day, but it only gives the illusion of entertainment because you can't hear anything. The compressor sound is so loud when you're in there. I thought, well, maybe I can make some friends here. You can't really even talk to each other because the noise is so loud.
Wow.
And on the website, it said that you're in there for 90 minutes. And to me, I can't even go in an elevator because I'm so claustrophobic. And so to be locked in, and they cannot bring you up before it's over. And because it'll kill you. And to be locked in there for 2 hours. And so when the tech tells us it'll be 2 hours, and I go, no, wait a minute. I thought it was going to be 90 minutes, which was bad enough. He said, no, in all, it's 2 hours. And I mean, even telling you the story again, I mean, I'm like, I'm creeping myself out here. And so I brought all kinds of things to read, like maybe I can distract myself. But it was, and I always thought, how is it helpful? How is it healing? I'm in there because my ankle is not healing. I'm losing my ankle. How is it helpful if your adrenaline is all pumped up in such a negative way? You're so scared and frightened and claustrophobic, and you're stuck in this little capsule for 2 hours. So after 5 days of this, I told my husband, I said, I don't, I was supposed to do it 20 times. And I told my husband after 5 days, I don't see any difference. I don't see anything happening. I'm not going to do this anymore. And that was the end of my doing that. I did it because I thought, well, okay, if I'm not walking, what if somebody said, well, if only she'd done the hyperbaric oxygen chamber? So, so what happened after that is I got a different trauma wound doctor. In all, I ended up with 8 surgeries.
8 surgeries. Wow.
8 surgeries,
How
and so
long? How long of a time frame was that? 8 surgeries from the beginning to the
144 days.
Jesus. Wow.
Right. And most of that time, I was lying in bed with my leg elevated in some different kind of cast with some ice nearby, so that the ice was just a distraction, so the ice would distract me from the pain. And after the last surgery, where okay, at some point during these surgeries where the trauma wound surgeon is going in, he's having the orthopedist go in to make sure that the Achilles is all nicely attached and everything. And it turned out that what had happened in this process, not only had my ankle died, but the Achilles had died too. And when in one of these surgeries where the trauma wound doctor is going to fix the wound area, and he thinks the orthopedist is going to make sure that the Achilles is reattached, he comes out and he says the Achilles never reattached and it died. He said, "Do you want to see the picture of it?" I really didn't, but and he shows me this picture. The Achilles tendon is the strongest, biggest, most powerful tendon in our body. And he showed me this little slide of this little tendon that was all a slimy mass, and it curled up onto itself like a little fetal thing. And it was clearly dead. I had no Achilles then. Well, now what am I going to do? We all know that you can't walk without an Achilles. So I'm a hiker, I'm a walker. To clear my head, I'll just leave my office and go take a walk and then come back. It's my favorite thing. And not to be able to walk at all. Um, and I mean, I was, to say I was frightened, depressed. We thought we were going into surgery to clear the wound and make sure the Achilles is all, going to start healing. Well, it's dead. I don't have one. And
So Joe, after 8 surgeries and like all this, once again, like you're thinking about, what's going on with your life after this. How did you start getting back into the hiking aspect? How did your recovery? What was it like? I mean, of course it had to be with your Achilles. You had to be slow.
slow. I
Yeah.
wasn't walking. No, no,
True.
no. No, I was not walking. I wasn't able to walk. And finally, the doctor, the surgeon who botched my surgery, who knew how bad my situation was, just out of the blue, he sent me an email or a text, and he said, "You might try this place." And it was a therapy center in Northridge, which you guys there in the Catskills don't know where Northridge is, but let me tell you, telling someone who lives at the beach where I do in Los Angeles that I have to go drive to Northridge is like kind of asking someone to drive to London. I mean, it is so far away. The traffic in LA is so bad. And I thought, okay, I'll do it this one time, but that's all. I'm not doing this ever again. And the guy at the facility there, it's mostly for spinal cord injury patients. And I tell you, it is a very sobering sight, like a sight like most people have never ever seen before. All these people who have lost the ability to walk, and they lost it not just because they have an orthopedic problem, but they also have a neurological problem. Luckily, mine was only orthopedic, and I say luckily, and not in a happy way, because there was nothing lucky about this story. And So the guy who founded this center for spinal cord injury patients has a couple PhDs in different areas of sports medicine. And he took me back into the evaluation room and he said, I've never worked with someone who doesn't have an Achilles, but maybe I can put all of my education into practice here and help you. And um, and the title of my book, You'll Never Walk Alone, is really based on I would not be walking today unless Taylor stepped up, no pun intended, stepped up and said,
Nice.
I'm going to take you on as my mission and see if I can help you. And so, and he didn't know either. And so in the beginning, and I thought, I'll go there once. It's so far away. Well, I went there 2 times a week. I went there 3 times a week. And gradually, and every time I went there, Taylor, in the beginning, I couldn't drive myself. I wasn't strong enough. Taylor would had a whole different routine for me to do. And he put together the Joe Recovery Program and said, consider yourself the CEO of the Joe Recovery Program. And in the Joe Recovery Program, there was medical acupuncture. There was a podiatrist who was going to fit me with a brace. There's massage, but don't think soft tissue massage. This was massage to break up the scar tissue, and it hurt. You could have heard me screaming from where you are in the Catskills. It hurt so much. So this was
Yikes.
part. No, I mean, it was awful. So this was part of the recovery program. And Taylor wasn't going to devote himself to me unless I did it all. And at one point I said to him, the medical acupuncturist was a medical doctor in Beverly Hills who did acupuncture as part of his practice. And he had never dealt with someone who did not have an Achilles, but he was willing to give it a try. And I said to Taylor, I said, but he's all the way in Beverly Hills. I said, do you know how far that is? And he said, Joe, this is your job now. You've got to do it all. This is your job. And so I went, I did it. And little by little, I started being able to walk a little bit. When I started there, I was mostly limping and dragging my left foot. I could walk with my right foot. I was overcompensating with the right side of my body.
Of course.
And obviously wearing out the right side of my body because I would take a step with my right side of my body and then quickly, touch my left foot down and hop back onto my right side because I could count on that. During this period, someone said to me when I was still on the knee scooter. They said to me, "So, do you consider yourself an ex-walker, an ex-hiker?" And I went, no, I do not at all. No. And also during this time, before I really got to Taylor at CORE, the place that really helped me, I was with a physical therapist in Montana. And this was someone I knew. And I thought we were kind of friends. I mean, I had invited her to the house for lunch. Her mother and my mother unfortunately died around the same time. I was amused by the stories of her father in his 70s dating again. So I thought we kind of had a nice relationship a little bit. And I go in there for my PT session, and she asked me to walk across the floor there. And that's what everybody always did, ask me to walk, and then they watch and they go, well, you favor your right side. And I go, yeah, I know that because that's where I still have an Achilles. That's where I'm strong. And she said, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but you have to consider that you're going to be compromised for the rest of your life. And I just looked at her and never spoke to her again because what she was doing.
Denied.
Yes, what she was doing in that one sentence, you have to accept that you're going to be compromised for the rest of your life. All I had at that point was hope. I had no doctor saying they could make me an Achilles. I had nothing. And she's saying I'm going to be compromised for the rest of my life. And I thought, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And just
exactly.
Exited there and never spoke to her again. And then that's when I got connected eventually with Taylor Isaacs and the facility he calls CORE. And he took me on. I'll tell you about Taylor's dedication to my recovery. Taylor is one of these people that likes to stay up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know what he does, watch stuff. I don't know. I mean, I can't stay awake that long. I'm an early morning person. Taylor is not. But dedicating himself to me, he came into that facility every time I was there at 8:30 in the morning, which is much earlier than he ever came in there. But he wanted me to be there with him before anybody else arrived so he could really concentrate on what I needed and how he could help me. And gradually I started getting stronger. He said, look, you have other tendons in your toes and your foot. Let's develop those and see if those can't kick in and help you walk again. And in the meantime, I also had an appointment with a doctor in New York. Now, this is the first doctor in this journey that I met who specializes in repairing the Achilles. His name is John G. Kennedy in New York City at the Langone Medical Center. And
John, if you're listening, we appreciate you.
Yeah, and
highly doubtful, but
he was the one I should have seen first, because that is what he does, is repair Achilles. And if there's nothing to repair there, like in my case, by the time I would have seen him, it's all dead, is he takes the other tendons on the big toe and makes an Achilles. I call it designer orthopedics. But my situation, and he was like my last best hope. And so we go see him. And of course, he asked me to walk across the floor there too. And I do that. And he goes, well, you're limping, barely walking. And he didn't like the brace the podiatrist had given me. He said, that's not going to help you. And so he looks at my ankle, he holds my foot, my naked foot in both of his hands with the graveyard down there. And I can tell this is a surgeon who loves to do surgery. He does designer orthopedics. I mean, he's at the head of his field of doing this. But I can tell he doesn't want to mess down there with that graveyard. First of all, there's very little space down there now. What could he do? How could he do it? And so he said, what I want you to do is to do aggressive physical therapy for the next 2 months and see how much function you can regain. And I didn't go away from there thinking like I'm back to elevating my leg and icing, which was what I was doing in the hotel room then. I felt like, okay, he's given me a task. Increase the physical therapy, count how many steps I can walk every day, and write down how I felt walking them. And
there you go. Yeah, that works.
Some days I would walk 529 steps and I would write, I'm exhausted, I can't take another step. And then other days maybe I could, but I was in New York City and I had my hiking poles for stability. And especially in Soho where they have the cobblestone streets, I could not have walked that by myself. And at one point, I'm on one part of Broadway, and some guy way over the other side of the traffic, like 4 lanes across, yells out, because I've got the hiking poles, he yells out, "How's the skiing?"
Nice.
Is only a New Yorker could do.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Right.
No, it's perfect. And I give him a thumbs up. And it cheered me up because I'd much rather be mistaken for a street athlete, skiing down the sidewalk there than a disabled person who can't walk.
Yeah. Yeah. So Joe, this all like ties into like all your stories and stuff like that ties into your new book, of course, that's coming out in February.
Yes.
You'll Never Walk Alone, a hiker memoir of adventure, tragedy, and defying the odds. You explain this all in great detail for this book, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. And it was recently as people have been interviewing me with the book coming out, they've been saying, well, you're a medical miracle. And so I was seeing this doctor for some other reason, but he's an orthopedic specialist. And I said, hey, I just want to run this by you. People are saying now that are calling me a medical miracle, and I keep wanting to say, tell them, correct them, and say no, no, no. And so he thought about it a little bit, almost went out of the room while he was thinking about it, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "You are a medical outlier. Yeah, you are a medical miracle. So not everybody who will lose their Achilles will get back to walking the way I will." And actually the doctor through whom I met Kennedy in New York, he's a doctor who studied 18 NBA players who ruptured their Achilles.
Oh, nice.
And he said none of them got back to their performance level the way they were before the accident. And that's pretty grim news. I wasn't an NBA player, but I wanted to get back to my peak performance. I wanted to be walking and hiking again. And so when I got back from New York, Taylor and I really ratcheted up the physical therapy. The sessions at his facility, and then he had me do like physical therapy 3 times a week, the medical acupuncture once a week. I mean, it was, and I was telling him, I'm getting worn out here. He said, "This is your full-time job now. Recovery is your job," and and so I didn't, I couldn't equivocate and go, okay, I don't want to have any more of that scar tissue massage. So I did it all for 2.5 years. And at the end of that time, I was able to really walk again. And
Were you writing your book as this was all going on?
oh God, no.
Oh, okay. So it was like all afterwards, and then you threw this all together.
Right. No.
Oh, cool.
No.
So Joe, what I'd like to know.
Yeah, what would you like to know?
Yeah, well, I've got 2 questions. One is the happy ending. So you go through hell, right? Mm-hmm. You're sitting at home. It's not like you're out on the trail. Your friend comes over. You don't want her to be outside. You rush downstairs. You snap your Achilles tendon. You have the surgeon who's done one of these in his career decades before, does the surgery. There's somehow you get an infection, maybe caused by him. It's an infection that you're not aware of. And by the time it's diagnosed, you have the necrosis, the loss of the Achilles tendon. You're now on the road to hell. You have all these surgeries. Do you get to hike again and go to a waterfall? Does that happen? Is that the happy ending here?
Yes, it is the happy ending. I started though in at the end of this period of time, about from November to about July, where I'm doing.
Of what year? Your accident's 2018. What year are
Yeah,
you?
we're 2019 now.
Okay.
My big goal I had set for myself was walking down our driveway in Bozeman, Montana. And I put on my oboes hiking boots. I had not had any hiking boots on from that whole period of time. I pick up my hiking poles. The hiking poles have the bear bells on them because there are bears around there. And I start off down our driveway, and I don't know that I'll be able to make the whole driveway, or maybe just the first few steps. I'm not sure. But it was a very beautiful day. After about the first 17 steps, we have some little bird houses along the fence line. And after about the first 17 steps, 29 steps, a whole flock of like bluebirds flew out of one of those bird houses, and you could see the under of their wings, which were turquoise, and the sun was, I mean, it was like a gift. It was so beautiful. And I continued on down the driveway very, very, very slowly, digging my hiking poles into the asphalt to ground myself, then taking another step. I mean, literally going step by step. And I made it down to the end. That was like 529 steps, I think. And wow. I was totally euphoric because what I had done in my previous life, of course, I would just skip down the driveway, and at the end of the driveway, there's a dirt road that goes, we're about, a quarter of the way up the mountain. And the dirt road goes all the way up to the tippy top of the mountain, which I'd love to do. And that's what I would ordinarily do. But now just walking the driveway was the accomplishment. But here's the happy part of the story that you asked for. I thought, okay, well, if I can do the driveway, then maybe I could hike Highlight again. Highlight is a waterfall, and this is my DNA. I hike to waterfalls. And so it's a waterfall. It's about 40 minutes outside of Bozeman. It's not really a hike, although it's labeled like a hike. It's really just a gentle stroll. It's where I take like New York City people who are more sidewalk walkers, but I want to give them an outdoor experience. I'll take them to Highlight. And so we got there that July morning. It's about 48 degrees. And I'm putting all my hiking stuff off. I've got the hiking poles with the bear bells on them. I've got a bear whistle around my neck. And we've got lots of extra layers on because it's cold to start out with. And we should have had gloves, but I mean, how often do you think of gloves in July? I didn't. And at the last minute, we were thinking, maybe we should have also brought some bear spray with us, but we're not going to go drive the 40 miles back into town on that dirt road to get bear spray. I had the bear bells, I had the bear whistle, and that bear whistle you can hear from 3 blocks away. It's so loud. So here's a question for both of you. Have either of you hiked in an area that is active with bears?
Oh, sure. In the Catskills, yes. But are you speaking of grizzly bears?
Grizzly bears?
There are grizzly bears there now, but that's recent. These are black bears.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Black bears are common in Tad's backyard.
Yeah. 2 of my hiking buddies are black bears in the Catskills. That's how often I see them. So.
I mean, I've encountered grizzly bears on when I was up in Alberta, Canada, doing the Canadian Rockies. So
Joe, you're on your way. You don't have your bear spray. You're on your way to the waterfall. Do you get there?
I do. I get
Yeah.
there. And and all along in the past, my husband and I would kind of race to get to the waterfall. That's the
Hmm.
destination. But on this day, I kept sitting down. Like every 100 feet, I'd sit down again on a log or something, and I was like, "Why am I sitting down? Is my foot hurting? Is my leg? Is this too much?" And what it really was, it was like I was just savoring that I was
Hmm.
out in nature again.
Yeah.
I was in a forest surrounded by this green cathedral. I was back in my element, which for all that time, I never knew that I might be able to get back there. And my husband kept circling back, like, we don't have to do the whole thing this first time. I went, no, 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 I'm going to do it. And I'd get up, I'd get my hiking poles, I'd start off again. And then in the end, when we start hearing the water thundering down, and and also, and I have to say at this point, other families would be walking by, well, whizzing by,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I am walking so slowly, and and I would tell Taylor that I'm just walking at half speed. And he said, to compare is to despair. Forget
Hmm.
it, drop it. And so we finally get to the waterfall, and my husband takes a shot of me, which was like my Rocky shot, with my arms up in the air with the poles up, and I did it.
Awesome.
And yeah, and I didn't know,
Yay.
yeah, I mean, how, if I could do it again, but I did it. And yeah,
Well,
so
I
yeah,
may, and you
That's
wrote a book about it.
yeah, I did. And the real reason that I wrote this book, and I love the color, but I love what they did with the cover and everything. You'll Never Walk Alone. The real reason I wrote this book is that if somebody is given a discouraging diagnosis, don't accept it. Don't accept it. Like the physical therapist who said to me, "You've got to accept that you're going to be impaired the rest of your life." Don't accept that. Don't accept it. Go research. Like when my husband and I were with that doctor who said, "Sure, I can fix this. I did this 20, 30 years ago." Take a pause, take a moment and say thank you very much, and go out and research who the doctors are who are doing it right now. But we were so flummoxed and upset, and I'm in a wheelchair at that point, and here's someone in front of us who says he can do this. He did this 3 decades ago. um, and so some of it is our we bear the burden of
Mhm.
some of this negative response, because we didn't research enough in the beginning. Calm down if you can, step back. And the reason I wrote the book is really that reason, that is to inspire people. If you're given a negative diagnosis, you don't have to accept it. You can go beyond it. And I hope, okay, I'll tell you, I hope people get that positive uplift from it and that inspiration. Someone was interviewing me just a few weeks ago, and she was a news reporter. And news reporters, I mean, being one myself, you when you're interviewing someone, you'll skim a book, maybe you'll just get it for some content that might spur you to ask a question. And she said she started reading it in that way. And she was so captivated by it
Hmm.
and entranced by it and inspired by it that she spent the whole day reading it through from beginning to end.
Wow.
And yeah, right. That's how I
Yeah.
felt too. And that's the reason I wrote it, is to inspire people in a really dire, negative, terrible situation to to gather together their strength and their sense of joy and overcome it. Know that that does not need to define you. I was not going to be an ex-walker, an ex-hiker. Now I walk at half the pace of others. Okay, let me tell you a story of just recently, because I think I'm doing pretty well now. I walk, I mean, such as I do. I was meeting a woman who I did not know, but I was looking forward to meeting her. She was a writer. She was new in our area. She had contacted me, and I was meeting her for a cup of coffee. This was just a few months ago. And so she says to me, as I'm approaching her table, she says to me, she doesn't know anything about my story. And she says to me, "You're limping." And it was just like an arrow to the heart, because I didn't really think I was limping anymore like that it was that noticeable. But I'll also tell you another story. I was in Bozeman, this was last summer, and it was actually the Oboes people.
Mm.
They had a sunrise hike planned. And I thought, oh boy, that sounds like fun. And so we're all gathering about 7 o'clock in the morning. It's Bozeman, so it's about 48 degrees out, 39, something like that. They have nice big fire pits around. You can huddle around the fire. And then when it starts time to go hiking, and in my previous life, I would be the one like at the front of the group with the leader, setting the pace. And I like that because that way you don't get dust in your face, and I like that. But this time when everybody started off, I was back. I was chatting with some guy. He was telling me how he just returned from Taiwan, and he could, out of his room in Taipei, his hotel room, he could step out the door and go hiking up a mountain. And I'm listening to him. This is all very interesting because we were thinking about going to Taiwan, and I realized the hiking group is getting further and further ahead of us, and we're just lagging behind. And so I motioned to him. I say, go, keep up with them. And he didn't want to do that. He was concerned. And I said, no, no, no. And so what I learned from that is that I can't hike with a group anymore. I couldn't keep up with a group. I joined a different kind of group. They're called the walkie-talkies. Have you ever heard of the walkie-talkies?
No. Stop.
I've got walkie-talkies at work and stuff like that. So, I mean,
Now, the walkie-talkies are the first time I joined them in Bozeman, a woman who lives up our mountain, Connie, had formed this group. And they walk slow enough so you can walk and talk at the same time. And that apparently is what I can do now, because I certainly can't charge up a mountain the way I used to, but I can do walkie-talkie. And actually, I formed a walkie-talkie group here in Southern California. And
nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So now let's wrapping up. We're almost on an hour and a half there, Joe. This is pretty great stuff. When is your book released, and where can we purchase it? Online, at local bookstores, what?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. The book is called, again, You'll Never Walk Alone, a hiker's memoir of adventure, tragedy, and defying the odds. And it will be available on Amazon online starting February the 10th.
Nice.
And then should be in bookstores all around.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you joining us, especially here on the West Coast. So it's nice 3:30 right there. Well, it's 5 o'clock right now. So I appreciate you joining us, and you're telling us your story, and your book comes out. It'll be in the show notes and everything. It'll be on the podcast and stuff like that. And hopefully everybody sees your message and your journey that you went through, your horrifying journey, but you came out on top, and now you are back to yourself and kicking ass and taking names. So taking waterfalls, really.
Well, my only point in writing the book was really to inspire other people. If they're given a negative diagnosis, you don't have to accept it.
Correct. Correct. And I truly believe in that as well. And I think, once again, you read this book, you will have that in your mind as well. And once you listen to the podcast, you'll have this in mind. So, Joe, I appreciate you joining us, and have a good night. And can't say we'll connect happy birthday. We can't. Yeah. I don't know if we'll say we'll connect in the future, because we're 2,500 miles apart, 3,000 miles apart. So,
well, thank you. Thank you for doing this on the eve of my birthday.
Yeah. Congratulations, and have a good night. We'll talk to you in the future.
And had we known, we would have had birthday cake here for you.
Yeah, and the ice cream.
That's right.
Ice cream. Yeah. Ice cream. Oh, have a good night, Joe. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Good night, Joe.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.